Hola comunidad de Roastbrief, nos encontramos en una nueva entrevista en el marco ya de Advertising Week LATAM 2025. Here we are with Douglas Rowell. He's founding president and executive business director, Advertising Week LATAM. How are you, Douglas? It's such a pleasure to have you here.
I'm great, and thank you for having me on Roastbrief, Sebastian. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's a privilege and a pleasure for us. Thank you so much for your time. And please tell us about this year's edition. I mean, this year marks another milestone for Advertising Week. How would you describe the evolution of this event since, I don't know, it's launching in 2017? And what makes the 2025 edition particularly significant to the Latin America region?
Yeah, I would say that, it's been an incredible ride. I remember being tasked with finding a path forward for Advertising Week in Latin America. I started that journey in actually 2015 and working hard in the early years with the CDMX government, the mayor at the time, as well as several strategic partners at the time, such as Grupo Expansión and others. We found a path forward. We launched the event. It was bumpy. We, as you noted, we were going to launch in 2017, but we were there for the earthquake. And actually, one of our original venues was Plaza Condesa, which got heavily damaged during the earthquake and I think eventually demolished. And that took us on a journey to, find a new venue. And part of the Advertising Week culture is finding interesting venues that have personality and character. And after a long search, we found the Papalote Museo del Niños. And that became our home base. And it's been an incredible place. It's great that we can have a self-contained event that allows people to network, do thought leadership sessions, engage in activations, networking cocktails, obviously rap party, comedy, everything we do at night. So we've been very blessed with a venue with great personality, great strategic partners and sponsor partners in the marketing community here in Latin America and Mexico specifically. And we've been very blessed with our connection now to the creator economy and how that's grown into a full-fledged vertical in terms of how brands and marketers approach reaching their audiences.
Yes, I mean, Adweek has become a true creative and strategic hub for the region. What key forces or cultural shifts are shaping this year's agenda and programming focus?
That's a good question. I would say it's we're coming at it from multi points of view.
Okay.
Some examples would be, we're looking at the future of marketing in Latin America. Latin America isn't catching up to global digital trends. It's potentially leapfrogging them by going mobile first, just as AI reshapes how we market, right? And what that means, for example, in Mexico, 97% of internet users go online via smartphones. Mobile is the internet here. And so that's shaping our conversation and our dialogues about how you reach audience, how you set brands and engagement, and how you, in essence, expand and scale your commerce. With LATAM making that leapfrog past legacy desktop habits, that is very different because in the US, when we have Advertising Week New York, we have a balance, mobile and CTV desktop. And in Mexico, it's definitely very much more driven by smartphones and as the first touch point. And then lastly, as 5G ramps, currently it's going from 14% to 55% by 2030. That means Latin America will unlock richer creative and targeting just as AI starts to reshape the way we even approach global marketing. So I think that's a huge talking point. I think another one that gets often missed because we are a B2B event is the impact of creativity. I do not think AI or any of these trends are removing the value of some of the top creative talent and minds that Latin America offers. In fact, what I would argue is that Latin America is actually set to become a creative powerhouse. Not just it already has a great presence at events like Cannes, and a lot of great talent has come out of both South America, Central America, and Mexico/North America Hispanic community in terms of advertising. But I would say the same as mobile behaviors driving media growth, I think these are also fueling Latin America's rise as a global source for creative innovation. If you look at mobile dominance fueling creative innovation, that means more short form, vertical, and creator-led content. I think that LATAM creators will export their cultural styles. I think we already see that. Just look at football, and the Super Bowl and what's about to occur with Bad Bunny. There's just a whole different shape of influence and cultural style that's coming out of Latin America and shaping youth campaigns in the US as well as globally. Lastly, I don't think the region is following trends. I literally think it is setting the trends. And I think those are great stories to be talking about this year.
Yeah, that's really interesting, though, because the 2025 edition promises to be more than a showcase of trends.
Mm-hmm.
As it's described as an immersion field. So
yes.
How did this concept emerge, and how does it transform the experience for attendees compared to the past years?
Well, I would say I believe this to be a very true statement, but I think one of the things Advertising Week LATAM specifically has been able to do is look at the market, look at the trends and the sensibility in terms of Latin American culture, and make decisions on how we customize this B2B event to be more directed towards the way Latin Americans are thinking about commerce, culture, and brand engagement. And some ways that we have developed that further is we now have a fully developed vertical around creator-led content. We have embedded activations throughout the market that bring all of our partners from both North America, from Mexico, from South America here for things like Ole Interactive has a very engaging activation. I won't give it away because they're doing some amazing things. We have partners from Colombia that are taking over the media pavilion and creating an engaging experience that allows people to learn more about both what's happening in the crypto space, what's happening in terms of media and advertising, and how those three things are coalescing into a shared economy. So I think it's about those types of pieces. I think it's also about the fact that we take full advantage of the desire in Latin America to be more social. And so we make a lot of networking cocktails. We have delegates and VIP lounges designed to not just help people come to the event and hear from top thought leaders, both from the market and globally, but we also have the ability to allow people for real networking opportunities, the ability to engage, find strategic partnerships, find new clients, learn directly in conversation, not just from the sessions, what's happening. I think the other thing we do that's critical is we have successfully brought several strategic partners into the event, like FIAP. So in order to engage creatives more, we now have the FIAP Awards, which are some of the top awards in the Ibero space for creatives, now taking place at our event and time to be there. So it brings the creative community together as well. So we try to make sure there's enough touch points for everyone from brand marketers to C-level executives to top creative thinkers to up and coming crypto and AI companies. So much like an event that unites the industry, we're not trying to separate it into different verticals. We're trying to bring everyone together so that they're hearing about the trends, the insights, and what's coming next together, and being able to find those partnerships that make the difference for their business and brands.
Yes, and speaking about the sessions, I mean, with over 300 speakers and a little bit more than 100 sessions, curating content that resonates with across all of these diverse audiences must be really challenging.
Yeah.
Yes, what guiding principles or filters do you use when selecting themes or certain voices?
So one of the things that we've worked out over the years is we do three things from the programming level. We develop theme stages. So we have the Great Minds stage, which is our larger global thought leadership stage that brings together some of the best minds from the C-suite, the best minds out there in terms of personas in the creator and influencer space, as well as some of the top minds behind analytics. And we put those folks on the same stage, and we divide that into several themed tracks throughout the 3 days of the event. So that, if you're being driven by what's happening in terms of retail media, you're hearing from the best and brightest in that space in a concentrated way. If you're on our innovation stage, then you're hearing about some of the best minds around what's happening in ad tech, what's happening in AI, and how those are changing the game. And hopefully, given the fact that in terms of where technology is having the biggest impact, you're hearing that from some of the top, leading minds in Europe, Asia, and the US before it truly impacts the Latin American market. So this allows all scales of businesses to hear the same information instead of some of that information being gatekept by a few. So hopefully this democratizes some of that information and allows the field to level out. So, everyone from small agencies and startups have the same information and insights as the top multinational players.
Topics like AI, real-time engagement, this data-driven personalization and creator-led storytelling are central topics this year. From your perspective, how are these forces redefining creativity and brand building in Latin America, Douglas?
So I think the way I would touch on that first is to talk about what that means for the business of content and brand storytelling, okay? So from our perspective in Latin America, brand storytelling lives in your feed first. That's just the reality of being in a mobile-first economy and a mobile-first market. It's not on your TV all the time. It doesn't mean that the TV doesn't play a relevant role because we have multiple generations within the market ecosystem. But what it does say is that an emotional connection has to fit the small screen. So brands in Latin America must win with emotional micro content on mobile, not long-form TV-first campaigns that can work together in unison and they can collaborate, but you must be prepared to address that. I also think as US budgets prioritize CTV and retail media, Latin America still rewards mobile resonance and creator integration first. So I think that's a big subject line we're trying to get across to our brand partners and to our platform partners, because that will help shape how they work with their agencies, how they work in terms of distribution, and how they define content. So at the end of the day, storytelling must be designed to be mobile first and feed first. It cannot be designed simply to go to a commercial spot on TV first.
That's quite interesting. You've been building like some partnerships with some of the world's most influential brands, Meta, Netflix ads to AD InBev and MasterCard. How do these collaborations shape the ecosystem of advertising week, and what do partners do you seek from this platform today?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think we've been blessed with partnerships that have developed globally. Sometimes they develop locally in Latin America. Sometimes they come from trusted relationships formed in Europe or formed in the US. But I think what drives our approach is we recognize that these larger platforms are ecosystems that everyone must adapt and play for, right? And it doesn't mean that they control necessarily the entire narrative of how you reach your audience, but they are definitely critical integrations you must be prepared to address. So what we like to do is find a way for everything, because, LATAM is diverse. You have, at the same time, you have, Amazon playing in the ecosystem, you still have Mercado Libre. And so the idea is to shape a conversation where you understand how all these platform leaders can help you both build your commerce, build your audience, especially your audience engagement, and then how they can help you basically shape what kind of, I guess I would say, collaborative efforts you need to make around it that are more regional. So you might, for example, need more experiential, in-person content or events to support those, but you need to understand how those get integrated and what you actually need to do to both support those, but also engage your audience that maybe needs to be reached more directly and more in person.
And for instance, beyond the sessions, Advertising Week LATAM has built cultural and community-driven experiences, features female awards, and great mind debates. How do these initiatives reflect your broader vision for the event's impact?
Well, I think our takeaway, which you can imagine, having set up over the last 15 years, 6 events throughout the globe, one thing we've learned is, the market is constantly shifting. I think for the longest time, advertisers could see that in terms of generations. So you might be, okay, we have the baby boomer audience, we have Generation X, we have millennials, then we have Generation Z, et cetera, et cetera. And I think they've always understood how the mindset and the sensibilities of generation over generation are changed by technology, changed by rising up in terms of the economy, which is kind of ever shifting. Are you in a mature market? Are you in a emerging market? How does that shape the sensibility of the generation that you're serving? But I think what's become more important is we've developed in the last, I would say, 2 decades, whether you look at the Me Too movement or some of the other fast follow movements around diversity, equity, and inclusion, you realize barriers for new voices, then diversity, isn't just a value now, it's the competitive edge. And so I think that's very important that, marketers in every region, it's not just a US or Europe specific thing. We believe truly that you're going to see, as populations increase, the rise of the female consumer. It's already at a majority level in most countries, but as they move into the workforce, they're no longer just deciding what happens in a household. They are becoming, some of the wealthiest spenders in the middle and upper class that you have to address. And so understanding that means you can accelerate the visibility for underrepresented and women-led creators, women-led and underrepresented brands, and how you reach those. And I think those are going to become more critical to businesses being, successful, especially as the market fractures. You start to get an increase in these groups, their potential economic power. You have to understand how to address and deal with them in a very authentic, community-driven way.
And finally, looking at the long-term future, what role do you envision for Mexico City and Latin America in driving global marketing conversations? And how does Advertising Week intend to elevate that voice on the world stage?
That's a good question. I think our goal has always been, I'll say Advertising Week LATAM, but I would say it's the ethos of Advertising Week globally, which is giving global brands and regional brands a front row seat to how marketing's future looks, right, in every region. And I think our number one goal is to make sure voices are heard. And I'm talking, yes, about diversity and inclusion, but what I'm also talking about is getting away from cookie cutter, that would be an expression in the US, but templated solutions when your audience doesn't see things the same way. I think some of the most beautiful things about our world is that there are different
we were talking about this long-term future. How do you enroll your vision for Mexico City and Latin America in driving these global marketing conversations? How does the advertising week intend to elevate that voice on world stage, and how do you see all of this constant evolution in this amazing industry?
Yeah. So from our perspective of Advertising Week LATAM, we have several initiatives we do to connect Latin American leadership, voices to the broader global market. We do that through a Hispanic Day in Cannes. So we have a day where we're teamed up strategically with, every year it changes the partners, but our core partners come back and we create a day in Cannes where we do several thought leaderships. We kind of explain the Latin American market and we give people an opportunity to understand what's happening in terms of trends and insights in LATAM. In terms of New York, we create a special VIP delegation that we take to New York. We let them see what's happening in terms of the US market, where are major technology breakthroughs coming, what's changing in terms of the ad market, what's changing in terms of brand focus. So hopefully they can get ahead when that wave leaves the mature markets and starts to hit the emerging markets. In terms of what we plan to do within Latin America, our goal, as always, is to expand our reach. We've done that with several partnerships to create targeted award shows. You noted Future is Female, our partnership with FIOP. We have a partnership with the most influential marketers that we do in the first half of the year with some of our partners to both provide profiles and put the spotlight on what's being done right in the market, as well as allow people to, meet with global invites that we bring and have a one-on-one dialogue. Our goal in 2026 is to take advantage of the uplift and momentum that the World Cup will present to both, North America in terms of the US and Mexico, but also the opportunity it gives us to do a road trip. And we plan to do a series of conferences in areas such as Brazil, Argentina, and Colombia to help bring some of our thought leadership and insights down to those markets for those that can't readily travel either to our global events or come to Mexico. And then lastly, we always take advantage of our partnerships to try to make evergreen content throughout the year, whether that's through our AW360, which is our online publishing platform, or through our content relationships where we develop original series that, like CMO Now, that we did with CNBC, to hear voices directly from the top C-level marketers out there across the globe, and we hope to bring that to Latin America. We've already set it up in Asia, in London and New York, and we hope to do the same down in this market.
Thank you so much, Douglas. It's been a privilege for me, and I'm really sure that it's been a privilege for our entire Roastbrief community to have you here. We can wait for this year's edition at Advertising Week LATAM. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And to your audience, I thank you all for taking the time to hear about our event. And if you do come, I'm easy to spot. I've got a big bald head, so don't hesitate to walk up and say hi. I'd love to hear everyone's stories.
Yeah, we're delighted to. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the community. See you at Ad Week.
Hope to see you all there. Thank you so much, Sebastian.